Pump the jam.
Pump up the jam.
Pump the jam.
So let's see.
Let's tell them what our song is, Chrissy.
You guys got a song?
Yes.
What's your song?
We have a song.
Bow chicka wow wow.
No, that's not the song. What did you walk across stage to?
What do I walk across the stage?
What did you walk across stage to and we jammed it out?
Oh.
Is it bad?
No, I just took too much.
I don't remember. What song is it?
Eric Thomas something? Over the, all your hands go.
Oh, DJ Khaled.
DJ Khaled.
DJ,
I'm like, Eric Thomas, he's a motivational speaker. Better hit the caffeine a little bit harder.
Hit the
a little bit
caffeine.
harder. We can do that.
A little bit hard.
All right, so this
All we do is win.
Season
All we do is win.
1. Take 1. Excuse me. Everything's rolling. Cameras are. All right, let's tap her in.
Cause he is my everything. When I got saved, yeah, I got a mustard seed.
All right, you ready for this, Ty?
Yep.
All right, let's roll, Keisha.
I get running like Forrest Gump, cause I know I can't walk it out. I'm seeking God's face. Matthew 6 is what I'm talking about. Let the track blaze, let the smoke clear the haters out. I'm trying through the fire, but by grace I have made it out.
Yo, called up my boy Ron, he said don't walk it out, gotta jog it out. What these haters gonna be talking about? I am not the rapper that's just
welcome to the message from the mess.
Oh, this should be interesting.
Yes. We talk about a lot of things that happen in your trauma, but we don't often talk about the mess.
Okay.
Buckle up, sister.
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
So many people want to tell their story in trauma, but they don't talk about the messiness of the trauma.
Right. Whenever they're presented with feedback on their stories and they have to go deeper into the mess, they bail on that and they actually cut that out of their stories. And that's the best part of their stories.
I agree.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Because people are ashamed. I think a lot of it is they don't want you to know that they don't have it all together.
Really?
I think people try to hide their mess. But I also know that there is growth in messes, right?
Sure.
And I come to the commonality of we're more alike than we are different.
Right.
Not everybody grows up in a environment that's safe and healthy and easy to, navigate. So when it's messy, people are embarrassed. And, I used to feel shame all the time about my family and be a reflection of, thought it was a reflection of me, and it was not. But I also know that in the mess is also a lot of unresolved issues that I can tuck away and I don't have to worry about. But when you talk about the mess, it triggers me and it comes back up. So until you resolve all those things, it's always going to be messy.
Yeah, you can't have a message without the mess. Like, it is the root word of message is mess.
Right.
Now, for me, I think a lot of it, why people pull away is the mess becomes the monster.
Sure.
And, as a little kid, you're always the monster in the closet or the monster under the bed. And I think that's where we put the messiness of our trauma. It becomes the monster. that we don't want to let out. And so we just continue to bury and not realizing that the dirty parts of the story are actually the most inspiring.
Yes. But I also feel like it's easy to tuck away.
Sure.
It is sometimes a little easy just to
Absolutely. Just
not include that in the story and
shove it.
tuck it right in there.
You have to think when you're writing books, you have to draw the reader in, regardless of what kind of book you're writing, unless obviously it's like a picture book. But then you have to have some really entertaining pictures, right?
Right.
So you have to draw them in. And what draws reader in? You put them in their emotions.
Sure.
And you don't let them out. It's like how I describe letters when somebody asks me. The very first story is the hook. I reel you in with the first story. And then I just throw you on in a pain pocket, a roller coaster, and I don't let you off till the end. Because I want you to experience what is being talked about in the story. Not that you go through that, but you can feel what these characters are feeling. And that's what makes a story. But that's also what makes us pull away from our own stories.
True.
Because the key words are we have to confront our emotions.
Exactly.
And, emotions have zero place in decision making at all because there's something driving the emotions. So there's trauma driving the emotions that you have. They are essentially also a trauma response. If you feel a certain way when you see something happening, you got to get to the root of that. And so I feel like the message will always stem from the mess because I've said it before in past episodes. They make the best storylines.
They do.
They make the best. I mean, look at the news. It's messy, right?
Every day.
It's messy. There's nothing positive out there. But people are tuned in, even on social media and on your internet searches. It's all messy. It's messy. And messy is drama. And people are drawn to drama and chaos.
Chaos.
Especially if you have like a mind that just continues to go, you're just drawn to that because you're not bored. You're never bored when you're in the middle of drama or chaos because there's always something going on, right?
Feed your thoughts.
Right. It's like you're out there watching, every movie of Lord of the Rings back to back, and you're in the movie theater for 9-10 hours. That's what it's like when you're in drama and chaos.
That's true.
The show just never stops, right? Just like, pop yourself some popcorn and get a Coke and just kind of just sit there and watch it all unfold.
Yeah, but it's numbing.
It is numbing. And until you resolve the issues, you will always see the mess as the mess. When you start to heal, truly heal from your trauma and move on from it, and then you start to see the mess as the root word of message. So again, we've talked about it before. It's all perspective. I'm not saying it's easy. It was not easy for me to go through all of my trauma healing that I had to do. And I mean, we're talking years, we're talking decades, because it still lingers with you. As you know, I was attacked in the dark and I cannot stand going into dark places. Like there has to be some kind of light in the room for me to walk in there, or I will straight up have a panic attack. Because it just triggers me right back to being pinned up against my house in the dark.
Yeah.
And then you have your fight or flight and your emotions just take over and you just go crazy. But, the mess is always where the inspiration is.
I agree.
For me, it's about inspiration. You want to impact people. You want to help people. That's human nature. You want to do something that's worthwhile. But you have to tackle the mess first, because we can't see when we're going through it or even trying to heal from it. And sometimes even afterwards, we don't see the inspiration in that.
True.
We just remember what it did to us. And again, it's that switch you have to flip in your mind. But you have to be able to inspire people in this world. That's how we move to a better place. And we have to shift the conversations. They have to be different style conversations. The cookie cutter just trimming the edge, and like when you're making Christmas cookies and you're making the sugar and you get that layer and you just smooth that sugar over and all that goes over there. That sugar over there is the conversation, not the one that's on the cookie.
True.
And people just aren't willing to go there. And you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of shame in that, because you are essentially putting yourself out there with everything. You're essentially laying yourself bare out in society for people to do and say what they're going to say. But that should never, ever drive whether you do it or not. Because here's what I know. You're going to have people that love you. You're going to have people that hate you. And you're going to have people that just don't care at all. And you have those three style people, but it should never stop you from doing what you're being told and be able to do. Because if I'm standing up in a group of people and I'm talking about how I had to reinvent myself after being sexually assaulted when everything was stolen from me, like they literally take everything from you, and what they leave behind, the trauma takes.
Right.
And you have to reinvent yourself. But that's also a chance. And when you stand in yes, this is what I went through and it sucked. It sucked. I had to go tell my Bible study group and all of that. You don't want to stand there and ever tell someone that someone tried to rape you outside of your door. It's especially with the stigma we have about that. But we also need people who can stand up and deliver those types of stories, because people have to know someone made it through it. And if they can make it, then I can glean something from what they're saying. Something is going to stick with me and I can find my own way through that. Now, you clearly don't want to copy somebody, because that's no healing at all. That's just adding a whole nother layer of issues on top of it. But, you can always find inspiration in somebody else. And really a lot of my inspiration actually come from men when I was going through all of that. And it was just, I listened to some really high powered, highly motivational speakers about what they went through and just how you have to come out of that. And for me, it was very insightful, because they deal with a whole different set of issues. And I'm sure Ty would agree with this. And you can still find inspiration in that. I'm not going to find my healing or the answer in that, but I can find an inspiration to make me look at things different. So for me, it's always a shift in perspective.
Yeah. It reminds me of the man in the arena quote. And I always say, unless you're getting your ass kicked in the arena with me, your opinion of me doesn't matter.
Exactly. When you are out giving your story, don't ever gauge the importance and the power of your story by how many people are in attendance. Whether it's one person or 1 million or 1 billion people you're talking to, you need to deliver that message exactly as if that one person was 1 billion people in the room, because you never know who God has sent to the room to get the message that you're giving. And if you can't stand in what you've been called to do, then you're doing a disservice, not only to yourself, but the other people in the room.
That's true.
The size should never matter in the crowd. Never matter in the crowd. Because your story matters more than the number of people that are in the room. It's all you have to do in this life is impact one person in this life and really cause a shift in their thinking. And then, let life do its thing. Let God do what he's going to do in those people. We're not here to save people.
Right.
We're here to guide people to Jesus, and they do the saving. So that was a big shift for me, because I always wanted to save people. I wanted to see the person that I brought to Christ, and I want to see them saved in their life. And that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with that. And you have to stand on what you say. If you say this is what you are, then you need to stand in that. Right or wrong, I'll always stand by what I've done.
True.
If it's right, then it's right. If it's wrong, I'll still stand in what I did. And then obviously, if I've offended someone or whatever, you apologize, because that's what you should do. It's only human to do that. But recognize that it's okay to be wrong sometimes. Because if you're always right, you're never learning anything.
You're never learning.
You're never learning anything.
That's true.
And then you just have more mess and a bigger message because now you really got to talk about other things.
So one of the things that I learned this year, because I walked on a lot of stages and I told my story about my sister, and the backstory for this is my sister passed away from an unexpected overdose. She had plans and dreams. She was, you know, a good, decent person.
Right.
And a lot of things I didn't know about, I found out, discovered later. But as I told my story and recorded it for the Texas films and put it on a YouTube channel, I came to find out how many people thought that I didn't love my sister.
I remember that we had that discussion from your comments.
Backlash on the first day that my documentary went live. And I was dumbfounded. And I was being, I thought I only told the truth, right? My sister had a history of being on medication that was prescribed by a doctor. She was an addictive personality. She was bipolar, and she self-medicated. So, you know, there was good days and bad days. There was days that she slept for days. And then when she would wake up, she was like a mean old bear. You know, it was not easy. And nor did I have to really be a part of it. And some days I wasn't a part of it. Some of it I was so out of touch of, you know, and I knew that she was injured. I just didn't know how it impacted her everyday life, because it didn't affect my everyday life. Right. And that's what I said to people. I said I was out of touch with her everyday experience of what her day and routine and stuff looked like. And that I was regretful of, because I probably could have did a better part in helping. Yeah. And I didn't. There were some things in there that people said that were very hurtful.
Yeah, they got pretty bad.
Got pretty brutal. And for somebody who doesn't know anything about the situation or what the circumstances were or anything like that, it's just somebody's opinion, right?
Yeah, and you know,
take
when
it or leave
filming, people have to understand that you only have so much time.
Right.
You can't tell the whole 20-year story in 15 minutes.
Right.
It's just not possible to do that.
And, you know, he did such a great job.
He did. Glenn was amazing.
Glenn was amazing in asking all the pertinent questions. Right. And again, I discovered things later that I didn't know at the time. So in the 12 years after my sister passed, I had some new revelations. And I have different perspective of that now. But her message is still important.
Absolutely.
Right? She didn't intend an overdose. She was poisoned. And the fact that, however you want to look at it, she passed away and had an extraordinary amount of fentanyl in her body.
Yeah.
An extraordinary amount, 27 milligrams of fentanyl.
That's crazy.
It's enough to kill an elephant.
That's just crazy.
And, you know,
Keisha, I always say, like, people are keyboard warriors.
They are.
They have the courage with a keyboard. But it's really different when you're standing side by side with someone and you have to tell it to them in their face. And it reminds me, Ty, I'm going to need you to make sure I'm quoting the right movie on this.
I got you.
But I believe the movie was A Few Good Men, where I believe it was Jack Nicholson was on the box at the trial. And they said, I want the truth. And he says, you can't handle the truth.
That's exactly the movie.
Is it? Okay, right. Okay. That's what I feel like it is. People can't handle the truth. So they're okay with the cookie cutter sugar version. And they don't ever delve deeper. One, to see if it's actually true. This is how you have all this fake news that goes around. They see something, oh my goodness, I can't believe that happened. They repost it.
Right.
They don't ever check to make sure that actually did happen or that actually was said. And, people's lives are destroyed in that. And it's very hard to rebrand that, especially if you have a brand and that happens to you and you have to rebrand out of that. People always remember that one bad thing against the 99 good things you did.
Sure.
And I think we're programmed that way in society.
I agree, but I also showed up with evidence.
Right. I mean,
And
facts don't lie.
Facts don't lie. I had all the details. I brought the evidence. And when you look at her autopsy and the amount of drugs that was in her systems and the drug level that was in her systems and the amount of time that had passed from her passing until they did the autopsy, which was a short amount of time. And the thing that held my sister up the longest is her best friend was in Vermont, and I waited for her to come home. And the person that I waited for to come home was the biggest, mess of the whole thing. And, her perspective wasn't the same as mine, but I was there. I lived it. Every person in my family was affected by it. And yet that was not her perspective.
Right. It's like this. Everybody has an opinion. They're like buttholes, right?
Right.
Everybody has one. And the size of it doesn't really matter. It's always going to be there. And you're entitled to your own opinion. But that doesn't mean I have to come to your opinion.
Right. And I never did. I did.
You
but
got to
here's the
stand
thing.
in your story. It's your story. You are going to have to answer to what you've done here one day when you go to the gates of heaven.
Right.
And you're judged on your story, not what other people said about your story, not the comments that you got on your story. And it's your stories that you've told here and the awareness and everything else you've done that you were directed to do. That's what you will be held accountable for.
Sure.
But that's the thing. People don't like to be held accountable in their messiness.
Right. But in the mess of that, I'm going to tell you, I learned the most about myself.
Yeah, that usually happens though, right?
But I do.
It does.
Because for years I was shameful over it and I didn't talk about it. And
that's generational.
It's generational. And then when I found my voice and could find other people that I connected to, it did make a difference. And then I got involved with another group. I partnered up with my friend LaKeisha and
Jayla's Voice, right? Jayla's Voice.
And Hammer. And their daughter had just passed away from the same thing.
Yeah.
Not the same circumstances, but an accidental overdose. And I had a mutual friend and I asked her to please reach out to her. I would love to speak to her. And immediately trauma bond. We just meshed. And I was like, I get it. I didn't lose a child, but right. I lost a sister and I watched my mom lose a child who died of a broken heart.
But we say this in writing a lot, Keisha. If you surround yourself with other people, other writers, or even creatives, different conversations happen at the table, right? It's the same thing in your messiness, right?
Yeah.
When I was seeking counseling from my issue that I had, my very first appointment with a Christian counselor, she sent me to a retreat in Delaware, Ohio. And I went in thinking it was just like a meeting of, like a sit around the table kind of meeting. No, it was a full blown retreat that they were doing. And I'm telling you what, it was one of the best things I ever went to, because when I went there, one, people understood. I didn't really have to say a lot. They understood what it was. And two, I didn't have to be anything other than what I was at the moment with these people because they got it. Birds of a feather flock together kind of thing. And, three, I got one of the best relationships with a lady. She's out of Sunbury and we're still friends. And that's where we met that day. She led one on writing and I was just fascinated by her and a lot of the stories. And, I got to work with the SARN organization after that, the Sexual Assault Response Network. And I got to go speak at a college about what had happened to me and what I was doing. And so sometimes in your darkest, deepest, haunting moments, there is a speck of light that comes through that allows you to be able to maneuver that into a light-bearing message.
I agree. I agree. And it's brought me a lot more compassion where at the time, I didn't have a lot of that for her. But now I have way more ability to see it in people.
Yeah, I did that with like battered women, right? For the longest time, I never understood the battered women. Why do they stay in the relationships they stay in? Until I was in a toxic relationship. And for me, I come to realize that was the only life I knew. I had become so isolated, I didn't even know who I could turn to. Because, my mom lived just across the river in the other state, and I didn't talk to her for the longest time, and I didn't talk to my twin for over 2 years. And when I stepped out of that and looked, like, I was very isolated and alone. And that's like the mousetrap, right?
Right.
That's the cheese in the mousetrap. You're just kind of stuck there because you don't know what to do. Right. And you don't feel a lot of value in yourself. And you don't know how you're going to make it. So there's that fear. If I leave, 1, are they going to come after me because I'm leaving? 2, how in the world am I ever going to make it on my own?
Right.
And 3, what happens if I don't make it? And now I have this failed marriage. I have a failed recovery from it, and a fail and fail and fail and fail. And that just becomes the words that soak into your head. Because, let's face it, for every positive, you got hundreds of negative things running through your mind. And we don't tend to forget what people say. That's why I always say words are weapons, and you really have to know how to use them, because you can lift somebody up or you can tear them down in a nanosecond. Sure. And in the end, it's on you what you've chosen to do with them. And so I really, like you, was able to see that from a compassionate way. Like, you know what? I get it now. I get it. I never understood before. And sometimes you don't ever understand until you walk the shoes. Sure. And then you get the whole picture instead of like the cliff notes. When you were in college and you had to study and you just check out the cliff notes and you're hoping that's what's on the test. I think that's how society approaches a lot of things with the Cliff Note version. Right. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. No, you actually don't see because you've never been through this. Right. And why in the world am I going to take advice from somebody that's never been through it?
Who's never walked in my shoes.
You have no idea what it is. You see this part of my life. You don't see everything that brought me to this point in my life. And that is really the travesty when people come in to your story and they come in your journey. They take you for what they are there. And that's why you can't take a lot of people with you, Keisha. And let me know if you agree on this, because they can't ever see you past where they met you.
That's true.
Rarely will you get that gem that can really see where you need to be going and really work on helping you get there. But that rarely happens. I found that people just cannot see past what they knew you as. True. Even when you're out trying to make a success of yourself. And, I think if you have the topic about mess, you have to talk about success. Yeah. Right? Because we have such a skewered idea of success. For me, I really had to take it down to world success versus kingdom success. The world says more, 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 more. You have to be more. You have to do more. You have to get more. You have to have more. You need more, 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 more. And like you're this hamster on the hamster wheel that never stops to take a drink. You're just wearing yourself out because that's what we say. Where the kingdom is like the exact opposite, right? Right. The kingdom success doesn't have anything to do with your worldly possessions. It's what are you doing to further the kingdom? How are you making that impact? How are you using what you have given here on this earth? How are you using that for betterment? And I think if more people shifted to a kingdom one, regardless of what your belief is, you would have a whole new understanding of success. It's what I told people about my book. I wrote my book for 2 reasons. I wanted to give a different ending to the people that I knew that had experienced those issues that I talked about in Letters to My Father. The second one was I wrote that book for believers and non-believers. I wanted the believers to open their Bibles back up again and a non-believer to be curious enough to want to open the Bible. And if you approach things with those kind of views, then it's a whole different outcome when you're playing that long game.
That's true.
But we're so programmed, you're programmed from the minute you come out of your mother, the programming starts. And you have all this generation. So by the time you're an adult, you are carrying a heavy weight on your shoulders of just generational stuff. And then when you start going, and especially like us, our message involves a lot of people. And,
Sure.
you know, we now have a team of people that we use, and you are carrying the weight of those people, because you have to realize that one wrong move made by you affects every single person
on the team.
attached to you.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I always tell you, I don't want to be that person that makes the wrong move.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you have to know how to conduct yourself. But you can't, the thing is, you can't leave people in the mess.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take them from the mess to the message.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, I don't know about you, but I don't see that done a lot.
No, but I also think that some people just have to, I feel grateful enough that I had people take my hand and pull me.
Yes.
And writing the book
Yeah.
of I'm Still
that
Standing
was an experience for you. I remember.
was the step.
Yeah.
Because I would have stayed right there.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to write the book, I didn't, you know, I've been a part of other people's books frequently. Never did I think I was going to put myself in that situation. And so when somebody tells you, hey, your story is important too, this is important. You need to tell your story. And now is the time. And I was like, me? Who, me? No.
What?
And I was like, I can't tell my story because, you know, then all your secrets are out. Right. And then people will really know who you are.
Yeah.
So I was in a sheer panic. And I remember making that phone call like, oh my God, I committed to do this. And now I'm terrified because now everybody's going to know the truth and how my sister passed away. And I don't really want to share that with other people. But then I also heard in the next sentence, your story is important.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs to hear your story because somebody they know, it may happen to them, or they may know somebody that it happened to them. And I was like, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
And
if not now, then when?
when? And you always said when.
And who? Why can't it be me?
Right.
You know, it's that verse in the Bible. They said, who am I going to send? And I believe it's in Isaiah. I raised my hand and said, send me, Lord.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're called to do, especially if you carry a lot of mess.
True.
Most likely you're going to be called to be a messenger of the mess.
True. But I also remember being terrified, but in the next, I would say 45 days, empowered.
Sure.
By telling the story.
There's that relief of the burden.
Mm-hmm. It was a relief of the burden. And the more I told my story, the more I told my story, the more empowered I became. And this, you know, it's brutally painful to tell the story. It still hurts.
Absolutely.
But I do know that it could help somebody else along the way. And I also believe that educating somebody and supplying the resources that go with it is the gift in helping the next person, because I didn't have that. I didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
I got handed a piece of paper. I got left with the news media at my front door. I got left with, when everybody left and it was just me and my mom, nobody came to help.
Yeah.
Nobody came to help. And I had to figure it out. I had to figure it out.
Yeah. I found that after I got attacked, you know, the going question was, well, what did you do to bring this on yourself? And I'm like, first of all, why would you ever ask that? It is not like someone just stands up and says, oh, hey, I'm going to offer myself.
Right.
That does not happen, right? It's like, why would you say that?
Mm-hmm. And if you say it out loud, you really mean it.
Right. Exactly. That's why you got to think before you speak. People say the stupidest stuff and you're already traumatized. Now, here's this level of shame because what are you going to run through your head? Well, what exactly did I do? You know, did I wear the wrong thing? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I go out at the wrong time? You know, it's like I did not ask for someone to pin me against my house and try to have their way with me against my will. You know, no, I'm sorry. No. And, you know, my brother-in-law, he's Italian. So you can imagine how the Italians responded that. It was not a good conversation with that person. And, you know, for me, the better question would be, you know, you survived. Like, what did you do to survive?
Right.
Because that's the difference. people understand getting attacked, but what did you do to survive?
Right.
For me, it was a miracle. I didn't do anything. It was someone showed up to go in their house looking for something that was in their car. I didn't do anything. It was like deer in the headlights. I knew I had been trained in self-defense, and it all went out the window because this is what I remember. I said to God, why are you doing this to me again? Those were my words. Not God save me, not God help me. Why are you doing this to me again? And that's a hard pill to swallow when you come around, because it shows what your frame of mind is. Mm-hmm. And thankfully that person came and they didn't get to finish the deed that they were doing. But I mean, I was bruised physically, mentally, emotionally.
Sure.
And then, I didn't tell anybody.
Right.
But the person, my friend in the same complex, he knew. He could just tell because clearly I'm emotionally messed up, right? And then I remember the next morning I was attacked on a Saturday, and I called my sister the next morning and I said, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to go to church. And she said, why? And I said, someone tried to rape me last night. And I just remember hearing like the phone drop, and I just hear her yelling my brother-in-law's name. And I'm a mess. My cats were trying to get out the door when it was happening. And, he came over and called the cops, and, we had that whole issue. And then it was, I don't know, maybe a month later, they showed up with a U-Haul and they moved me into their house because they weren't comfortable with me living by myself. Yeah. And, I had a lot of healing to do from that. But, you can see people's reactions. But my mind was, I have to let my family know I can't go to church. Not that, hey, this happened to me. Like, I feel bad because I'm not going to go to church, but I'm an absolute mess. Yeah. And then, once the church found out, then the support network came with that. So you just have that. But in all of that, you can see the different levels of people's reactions.
And some people never get support.
Some people never get it. And some people never get it.
I can tell you, I came from a family who didn't get it, who didn't offer support, who tucked it right underneath the rug.
So were they like, because I know this is a popular response, why do you have to talk about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they didn't
you just want to punch somebody,
and
right?
Here's the other part. We have mental illness in our family.
Yeah.
It is blatantly known. We have mental illness in our family. Everybody has their own perspective about it, right. Some more than others. But here's the thing. They're still your family. Right. They're still your family. And what have you done to support them?
It's crazy.
A big fat
0.
Your opinion matters this much to me for somebody who has never walked in my shoes.
Right.
And so, I'm still a little bitter party of two. Right. I can admit to that. But I've worked on it. It's taken me a lot of time to offer forgiveness because people need forgiveness for not knowing better.
Right.
They really need forgiveness for not knowing better. And it's not because they didn't choose. They just chose to ignore it.
A funny thing in the assault world, the forgiveness is called the F word.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the F word. You don't really say it a lot. You know what I mean? And so, you have to get to that point in your life. And sometimes you got to go solo. You got to go solo. And, faith is a big thing for both of us. It plays heavy, and we lean really heavily on that. And I do believe that God will send you people to help you in your time of need. I do believe that. And a lot of times it's not the people you think it would be or should be. And a lot of times it's absolute strangers. Where you don't have stranger danger.
Right.
Because, you just know.
The Lord sent them.
Right. The Lord sent them. And
they're angels.
And you have to remember, you don't know how people are praying for you.
Right.
Some people are praying just for him to send someone to help you, and you have no idea what's going on, and you're just praying, give me the will to live another day. Yeah. And sometimes that's the answer to the mess. People always ask, well, how did you do that? Especially after, you face that life or death decision, and they're like, well, what do you do? Well, I just ask for the will to live another day because I don't know how to live after all of that. I'm so caught in my trauma that I didn't even know what life look like what it was supposed to look like. Was I doing it right? Was I doing it wrong? And then you battle all your insecurities.
Sure.
And they all just become this monster. They are the monster under your bed, in your dresser drawer, in the closet, on the mirror, in the bathroom, waiting for you when you get in. And these monsters, they either rule you or they, or you turn it into a monster that protects you.
I went through a bunch of things. I went through Al-Anon after my dad died.
Right.
And I learned the Serenity Prayer. And I fell into that for a long time. But then I also leaned into my Bible. At the time when my sister passed, I didn't have a lot of support. But I did immerse myself in building my confidence. And that is just,
And how'd you do that?
How did I do that? I did a lot of journaling. I did a lot of affirmations.
Yeah.
I did a lot of listening to mindset. People that empowered me. Lisa Nichols.
She's amazing.
Aslana Van Sant. I can't say her name. Aslana Van Sant. She could speak my love language.
Yeah.
Lisa Nichols lit my fire. She talked about her story in a sales position that she was not good. She came from the projects and she went to a conference. She went to that conference 63 times. So she memorized the conference and she became so well at being a sales leader that, her business exploded.
Right.
And she had a child that she couldn't afford diapers for and she'd have to wrap him up in a towel. And she didn't have family to take care of him, and I could feel her pain and I felt alone in her pain.
Yeah.
But I also knew that she's not alone in that pain. Other people have probably encountered that as well as she has. And it just brought me comfort of knowing I was not alone. And there was other people like me in similar situations that I could relate to. And when I took myself out of the equation and go, look around you. You're not alone. We're more alike than we are different. And that's what I think people forget sometimes. We are more alike than we are different. And then if I could bridge the gap and really hone in on the issues that I needed to work on for myself, then my confidence would grow and things would change. Right.
Sure.
And because of those things, I wrote, stories and articles and, I've done other things in my life, like when my mom passed away. My mom passed away from a very rare hospital-acquired infection. So rare, 13 people in 2007. In this day and age, there's like 73.
Yeah.
It's happened since then. But until somebody famous dies of it and there's a name and a person, nobody's still going to hear about it because it's profitable. I was so excited to tell my story on the, CBS Evening News with Katie Couric. And I got that opportunity to, say my piece. And it did help other people. I worked with the Consumers Union Group. I worked on legislation. I've always been an advocate of some sort. Right. Because I believe in helping people.
Yeah, I think it's important that you talked about making peace with it.
Yes. Making peace was something. If I didn't make peace,
you can't put the mess behind.
I would never be here today.
Right. You can't move on if you can't make peace about it. Now, that doesn't mean like you forget what happened and all that. That's not what we're talking about. But you have to find a way to get yourself moved to the next level. And a lot of that is peace. You have to come to peace with that. I know for me, like music was huge in my healing. And I run the gamut. I'm from instrumental to metal to opera, Italian. I love Italian opera. Half time I don't have any clue what they're saying. That's why I need like need to listen with translation headphones on so I know what they're saying. But it was big for me, and I could really gauge where I was on my journey by the music that I chose to listen to, because you have to know. And then, I listen to a lot of Max Lucado. I love Max. He has a way of just putting it in everyday terms.
I love him on Audible.
Oh, yeah. And really, the wonderful unforgettable Billy Graham.
Absolutely love Billy Graham.
I mean, Billy pulled me through some tough times and doing that. And so I immersed myself in that. But I'm also one that, you know, I will read different genres. I'm a big sci-fi junkie. I love fantasy. And I will just read those because I know when I was a little kid and after that happened with my parents, I really honed into books because I found that books could take me to places that I wasn't physically at. And it could make my mind momentarily forget about what I was going through. And really, it's not that you want to continuously do that because that's not healthy to deal with things. But in those moments, I was able to breathe and I was able to think and I was able to feel something different than the agony I was feeling. And so that is really one of the inspirations of why I wanted to become a writer, because I wanted to be able to produce that for other people and really just make an impact. You know, you can make an impact in a lot of genres.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast.
Right.
Because I sat on it for 3 years and finally I found the right person.
Right. We found Ty.
Yo.
And he's making it happen for us.
He is.
So this is a big step in progress for me as well. You know, it's one more thing underneath our belt that we have accomplished.
True.
And this is going to make a difference and help other people. It's not just about us. It's about helping be of service to other people, be a resource to other people. And, you know, we'll include some things in our show notes.
Right.
So you can get some resources for that as well. But wrapping up.
You can still thrive.
Yeah.
Even if you've experienced trauma, you can still thrive and live a fulfilling life.
Absolutely. So what's your one big takeaway from your mess in your message?
Oh, wow. You know, my mess it's a lot. It's really heavy. The burden is really heavy no matter where I am on it. But the message from that is I've now taken all that darkness and now I'm using it to shed light. And just if that little bit of light can pierce that darkness for somebody and just open up. You know, you got to think when you have darkness and light comes through, you have like that little pinhole of, I call that hope. That's the pinhole of hope. If my message can do that for someone, then I absolutely will stand up every day and talk about not just the mess, but really the message of what come out of that, because that's where the inspiration lies. The mess is just kind of like the lead in to what you're getting to.
I believe in hope as well, but I'm going to fall back on my mustard seed of faith.
The faith of a mustard seed.
My faith walk has been so strong in knowing that it has pulled me out of the pit so many times. Every time I've fallen, I've gotten back up. And, you know, the title of my book is I'm Still Standing.
That's true.
And so it is true in so many ways in my life that it has made such a difference in my faith walk.
Yeah, you know, mustard seed, a lot of people don't know that they become trees.
Absolutely. And I don't feel like a mustard seed. I feel like I'm an oak tree.
Right. You
I'm an
went
oak
from
tree.
a mustard seed to an oak tree.
To an oak tree. And I just feel like that is who I am, for sure.
Yeah. You know, I agree. Like, you got to have that. You got to have some faith. You know, one, you need faith in yourself.
Right.
And you also need to have the faith with the Lord. That's really important, especially in our journey. We lean really heavily on that. But I think everybody has a message, and everybody's message needs to be heard, because when you start hearing different perspectives of people, you start thinking differently.
Yes.
And you get back to critical thinking, and really visionaries are born out of that. You know, if you can take what you've done and what you've been through and you can become a visionary to see, you know, you got a long game. You got to play the long game. The short games only get you yards. The long game gets you the points, right?
For sure.
Good old sports reference there. But so we're going to wrap this up, and I'm going to say this, Keisha, and I want to know if you agree. Don't let your mess become the monster that steals your message.
Amen.
Would you agree with that?
I agree.
How about you, Ty? Would you agree to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So don't let it become a monster. And remember, stay uncharted, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
For sure. Hey, this is Keisha. It's important that you leave your comments because we'd love to know about it. We'd also like for you to subscribe, like, share, and tag. See you next time.
Hi, this is Chrissy. Thanks so much for watching our episode today. Be sure to stay tuned for our featured song. Can't wait to see you next week.
She sounds like an angel when she sings. She is like an angel opening her wings. She sounds like an angel who sings in the desert, reaches every angle of all the children's hurt. Now she feels she can handle, stormed by the dirt. Her feathers are too entangled to even try. Her lover seeks her out through the dry heat, all about compassion in his grieving shout. He's looking to refill her drought. My angel, he calls her name. He finds her buried under the sand of shame. Rise up, he declares, out of your grave, I am here to save the children. They are crying for us. They are crying for our help. Jesus, they say. She sounds like an angel who sings in the desert, reaches every angle of all the children's hurt. Now she feels she can handle, swarmed by the dirt. Her feathers are too entangled to even try and exert. Then she hears this whisper, sweetly as can be. Inside you is a treasure you've forgotten how to see. Inside your songs are truth, love and healing harmony. Rest in my presence, sing your song. A weapon was formed against you, but it won't last long. I listen to the children's cry, but I'm too broken, Lord, to fly. Your weapons are mighty, God, for tearing down strongholds. Simply meditate on my love as my vengeance unfolds. They're groaning for your song, gone lost and wild. Are you ready to make the choice, my sweet child? She sounds like an angel who sings in the desert. She forgot she was a jewel, covered by the dirt, till her very own angel came and hugged away the hurt, like all the hurting children. She knows what it's like to have her pain away and hit and all to be set right. She sounds like an angel when she sings. She is like an angel opening her